Welcome to the College of Knowledge. This time, business sustainability in volatility, a leadership-driven perspective. With over 20 years of senior management experience in the IT and telecommunications industries, he's the current CEO of Econet Wireless Zimbabwe. Here is Douglas Mboweni.
So, why would anyone start a business? What's the purpose? Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We are living in challenging times where there is increasing complexity within the operating environment of businesses. And the major challenge that faces the businessmen today is how to sustain business viability, even in volatility. The environments are getting increasingly volatile. So where do I begin as a businessman? That's the question I'm looking at today. Business sustainability in volatility. Fundamental question. But allow me to start off with some, what I would call, statements of fact. The first one is, and I will quote scripture here because I apply it myself, Deuteronomy 8:18. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to create wealth. So fundamental point for me is the fact that we realize that we have been given the capacity to create wealth as individuals. Statement number 2, which I believe is also critical, and I get it from Proverbs 16 verse 3. Commit thy works unto the Lord, and your plans shall be established. Again, statement of fact number 2. Statement of fact number 3, again from Proverbs 19 verse 17, and I've applied it again in my own personal life. It basically says, he who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and the Lord will pay him back. Now, God is no man's debtor, as we all know. And when he pays back, he multiplies. So there is the rule as a businessman to create an asset that will never be in default. Why am I putting these 3 fundamental statements of facts on the table? Number 1 was to ensure that all of us are aware that we have been created with the capacity to create wealth. There is no doubt. But number 2, the issue of planning and putting into practice an execution plan which you can hand over to your teams is absolutely critical. And then, of course, number 3, that we need to have a plan even for the poor. So what do we do when the environment is chaotic? In fact, there is a term that is actually being popularized by the American military, and they call it VUCA, V-U-C-A. V for volatile, U for uncertain, C for complexity, and A for ambiguity. And the VUCA environment has come to characterize our business operating environments. So what do we do to ensure that that output, which I call business viability, is guaranteed? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are principles. Like anything, I was trained as a mathematician, and I remember one of my teachers when I was in O-level, he kept on saying, just know the laws of mathematics and you are okay. So if it is Pythagoras' theorem, just apply it to any problem that needs it and you will succeed. And for sure, when you apply the laws that are applicable in any field, you will see success. So my main point here is also that even in business, there are rules and principles and laws that if we understand them and apply them, we will, despite the volatility of the environment, get that business viability that we are looking for. So what are some of these laws? In 1994, a gentleman, Peter Drucker, who is well known in management, popularized what he calls theory of the business. And on that theory of the business, he basically drew a triangle. And I will mention 3 elements of that triangle quickly because I have actually gone to the extent of applying those principles in everything that I do in business. Number one, on one corner of the triangle is the environment. Understand your environment. Break it down. The market, the customers, the technology, the regulatory framework, the politics. Understand that pillar thoroughly. Sit down and scrutinize all the elements, and you will see that it will contribute to your understanding of your environment in terms of pushing your business to its viability. Number two, which is right at the peak of the triangle, is the mission. As a businessman, am I clear in terms of what my mission is? What is my mission? I mustn't be ambiguous in terms of what I am in that environment to do, Peter Drucker would say. So crystallize the mission of the business and be very specific so that every single individual within the organization, within your business, understands that mission. And then the last corner of the triangle is the core competence corner. What is it that you do best? If you are baking bread, are you the best at baking bread in town? So that when you understand your environment, you know your mission, and your core competence is very clear, then you have a solid business that you can then take through any environment. Environments will change from place to place. Africa has got its own characteristics, different from Europe, different from the Americas. But once you have got those three pillars, your environment, your mission, and your core competency, you are able to adapt in any environment to make sure that those elements, the integrity of those elements is maintained as you drive your business towards its viability. I would like to move on by sharing a model which I love very much by Gibson and Tarrant, and they developed it in 2010. They've got a model which they call the attributional resilience model. And this model assumes that you have got a context, a business context. Call it your environment. Now, they basically say, no matter what the factors are in this environment, the key objective is to place your business in that environment. So if you are in Zimbabwe, take your business as defined earlier on, put it in that environment. But using the same triangle, but now today, in this particular case, it's different from your environment, mission, and core competence. They are now looking at three factors that are critical to making sure that even in volatility, you are able to drive your business through this environment. So what are these elements? Right at the base of the triangle is leadership. Leadership, people, ideas, knowledge. That forms the fundamental foundation of an organization. Without these, ladies and gentlemen, it's difficult to drive an organization through volatility. A leader can make or break an organization. And so it becomes very critical. Do I have the right leader? Do I have the right people? Do I have the right knowledge, skill set within the organization? Right at the foundation of that triangle is a business. The other pillar of the triangle is infrastructure and resources. Yes, it's good to have the people, but do you have what it takes to drive that business through the environment? Yes, despite the fact that you know your market, you know your mission, you know your core competencies, but do you have the resources? Do you have the infrastructure? So that piece of the triangle is now saying to us, put together the very necessary pieces that you need to make sure that you drive your business. And then the last pillar by Gibson and Tarrant, they talk about systems and processes. It's amazing, ladies and gentlemen, how organizations or businesses can assume that they can run without systems and processes. It's very difficult, particularly in volatility. Because one of the most dangerous elements within a business without systems and processes is a human being. Yes, you can put machines all over. Machines, when you program them, they will follow the instructions. They will follow the rules that you have laid before them, but not a human being. A human being functions within a framework of systems and processes. That is why we have auditors. That is why we have got accountants, basically to take stock of what is going on within the business. And so Gibson and Tarrant in 2010, they came up with this model and emphasized that it is absolutely critical that you develop serious systems and processes if you are to scale through and ride the waves of volatility in any environment. So that's the model. I got so interested in this model that I went on to do my own personal study on, so how do I develop a leadership that will take a business within this kind of context through volatility? And it took me to a model which I call the LDRM model. I took Gibson and Tarrant's model, and I said, okay, I understand it thoroughly, but I want to dig deeper. And by digging deeper, I took an element of this model, which is the leadership element, and I started to strip it into its own pieces. My main aim was to ensure that at the end of the day, I'm driving that business towards sustainable viability. And the key element to doing that is the leadership element. If you pull out leadership, there is chaos in the business. But if you put the leadership in its place, they can easily coordinate everything else within the business and drive the business to where it's supposed to go. So what did I do? I picked up the leadership out of this model and introduced what I would call business imperatives within the complexity ontology. And basically, it's the complexity reality, which is the study of real things. And I came up with 24 factors of leadership. One of the important factors in all these sets is what I call personal mastery. The ability by the leader to have self-control in a lot of matters. Not to panic when things happen. Because when you panic, when you're the pilot, there's chaos in the business. To be able to be calm, even in the storms of volatility, absolutely critical. And it's a topic which I normally strip into its pieces, and I hope I will be able to find some other time to actually talk about it. One of the things that I will need to extract out of these factors is what I've called innovative disruption, strategic disruptive innovation. In other words, not accepting the status quo, but being able to move in an environment and shake it and introduce new ways of doing things. That is how businesses will survive. But otherwise, if you remain with the status quo, there are new innovative businesses that are coming and basically introducing new skills, new things that are coming and surpassing whatever you've put as the business model. Look at the camera business today. Every smartphone now today has got a camera on it. So where is Kodak? And we can talk about more and more such examples. But ladies and gentlemen, this is why I'm saying it's absolutely critical as we drive the business through volatility to ensure that we understand the key pillars of a business, but also the key pillars of what it takes to operate a business within any given context, particularly within our African environment context. Thank you very much.